नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणी। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम Ram Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopal Jaya Jaya Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopal Jaya Jaya Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopal Jaya Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radhe Jaya Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radhe Jaya Radha Gopinath Radha Gopinath Radhe Jaya Radha Gopinath Radha Gopinath Radhe Jaya Radha Rasa Bihari Radha Rasa Bihari Radhe Jaya Radha Rasa Bihari Radha Rasa Bihari Radhe Jaya Radha Madan Mohan Radha Madan Mohan Radhe Jaya Radha Madan Mohan Radha Madan Mohan Radhe Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari Radha Kunja Bihari Radhe Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari Radha Kunja Bihari, Radha Kunja Bihari, Radha Kunja Bihari, Radhe Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari 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 Radha Kunja Bihari, Radhe जय राधा माधव राधा माधव राधे। जय राधा माधव राधा माधव राधे। जय राधा बाके बिहारी राधा बाके बिहारी राधे। जय राधा बाके बिहारी राधा बाके बिहारी राधे। जय जगन्नाथ जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेवा जय सुभद्रा। जय जगन्नाथ जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेवा जय सुभद्रा। जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयन पथगामी नयन पथगामी भव तुम्हें। जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयन पथगामी नयन पथगामी भव तुम्हें। जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 प्रभुपाद। जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 प्रभुपाद। जय जय गुरुदेव 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 गुरुदेव। निताई गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल। निताई गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल। बोलो नरसिंह भगवान की जय। शिल प्रभुपाद की जय। निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। बोले हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। यमुना तीर वनचारी यमुना तीर वनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। यमुना तीर वनचारी यमुना तीर वनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। हरे कृष्णा Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayeta Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatim Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtuti. Welcome everyone in Bhagavad Gita class. So we are in chapter number 13, sloka number 13, chapter number 13.13. So we'll recite the verses with translation and then we'll start discussion followed by Mangalacharya. 13.13. Geyam yat tat pravakshami yajagyatva amritam ashnute anadi matparam brahma na sat asad uchyate. I shall now explain the knowable, knowing, which you will taste the eternal, Brahman, the spirit, beginningless and subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world. 13.14. Sarvatah panipadam tat sarvato shikstiro mukham sarvatah srutim loke sarvam avritya tishtati. Everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes, head and faces, and he has ears everywhere. In this way, the Supersoul exists, pervading everything. 13.15. Sarvendriya gunabhasam, sarvendriya vivarjitam, asaktam sarvabhricheva, nirgunam gunabhoktricha. The Supersoul is the original source of all senses, yet he is without senses. He is unattached, although he is the maintainer of all living beings. He transcends the modes of nature, and at the same time, he is the master of all the modes of material nature. 13.16. Bahir antasya bhutanam acharam charam evacha सूक्ष्मत्वात् तद्विज्ञेयम् दूरस्थं चान्तिके च तत्. The supreme truth exists outside and inside of all living beings, the moving and non-moving, because he is subtle, he is beyond the power of material senses to see or to know. Although far, far away, he is also near to all. 13.17 अविभक्तं च भूतेषु विभक्तम् इव च स्थितं भूतभर्तृ च तज्ज्ञेयं ग्रसिष्णु प्रविष्णु च. Although the supersoul appears to be divided among all beings, he is never divided. He is situated as one. Although he is the maintainer of every living entity, it is to be understood that he devours and develops all. 13.18 Jyotisham api taj jyotish tamasah param uchyate jnanam gyeyam jnanagamyam hridi sarvashtivishtitam. He is the source of light in all luminous objects. He is beyond the darkness of matter and unmanifested. He is knowledge. He is the object of knowledge and he is the goal of knowledge. He is situated in everyone's heart. 13.19 Iti kshetram tatha jnanam gyeyam choktam samasatah madbhakta etad vigyaya madbhava upapadyate. Thus, the field of activities, the body, knowledge, and the knowable have been summarily described by me. Only my devotees can understand this thoroughly and thus attain to my nature. 13.20 Prakritim purusam chaiva vidhi anabhi ubhavapi vikaram cha gunam chaiva vidhi prakriti sambhavam. Material nature and the living entities should be understood to be beginningless. Their transformations and the modes of matter are products of material nature. 13.21 Karya karana kartitve hetuha prakritir uchyate purusha sukha dukkhanam bhoktritve hetura uchyate. Nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and effects, whereas the living entity is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyments in this world. 13.22 Purusha prakristho hi bhumte prakritijan gunan karanam guna sangosya sad asad yonijanmashu. The living entity in material nature thus follows the wage of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus, he meets with good and evil among various species. 13.23 Upadrashta anumanta cha bharata bhokta maheshwarah paramatmeti chapyokto dehin asmin purushah parah. Dehe asmin purushah parah. Yet, in this body, there is another, a transcendental enjoyer, who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is known as the Supersoul. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagra Jatam सहगना रघुनाथान्वितां तं सहजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितां च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्णा चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण। Welcome everyone in Bhagavad Gita class once again. So we are in chapter number 13, sloka number 13. So in chapter number 13, sloka number 12, we have already seen that 9 processes of devotional service. So we have already discussed a lot about 9 processes of devotional service. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnoh Smaranam, Pad Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, दास्यम सख्यम आत्मनिवेदनम श्रवणम कीर्तनम विष्णु स्मरणम पादसेवनम अर्चनम वंदनम साख्यम आत्मनिवेदनम. So what are the different 9 processes of devotional service? That is hearing, chanting or glorifying, remembering, serving Lord's feet, deity worship, praying, becoming servant, and praising. So, chanting, glorifying. So, here we have a very good example of Sukadeva Goswami. So, Sukadeva Goswami is taking the name of Lord, chanting, or he is glorifying Lord. And in front of him, Parikshit Maharaj is sitting. So, chanting or glorifying by Sukadeva Goswami is an example of Kirtanam Vishnu. And before that, hearing Sravanam. So, Sravanam is very first stage of bhakti. Hearing. Then, Smaranam, Prahlad Maharaj, remembering. We have example of Smaranam, remembering about Lord, that is Prahlad Maharaj. Whenever anything happens or doesn't happen, always Prahlad Maharaj remembers Lord, his pastimes of Lord, Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. Okay, so then comes Pad Sevanam. serving Lord's lotus feet. As we can see in any picture that Lakshmi Devi is always massaging the lotus feet of Supreme Lord Krishna. So Lakshmi Devi is example of serving lotus feet, that is Pad Sevan. Then next come deity worship, Maharaj Prithu. Archanam. Archanam, Maharaj Prithu always do Archa Vigraha Seva, and Maharaj Prithu does the deity worship. Then next comes Vandana, always praying to Lord. Oh Lord, give me bhakti. Oh Lord, give me bhakti. The best example of Vandana is Akrur Maharaj. Akrur ji always praying to the Lord that, oh Lord, give me bhakti. I want to serve your lotus feet. Then comes Dasyam. Dasyam, becoming servant of Lord. By becoming servant of Lord, one can serve Lord a lot. Hanumanji is the example of Dasyam. So Hanumanji served Lord Ram when Mother Sita was in Lanka. So it was the job of Lord Hanuman that he served Lord by searching Mother Sita. Then comes Sakhyam, friendship, becoming friend with the Lord. So here we have best analogy, Arjuna. So Arjuna was the best friend of Sri Krishna. Even Arjuna was not knowing that his best friend Krishna is Supreme Lord Krishna. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It was unknown to him. And Arjuna was treating Lord Krishna like an ordinary person, ordinary living entity. He was calling, hey Krishna, hey Yadav, come here. So they were all making fun. So Krishna can also become friend with his devotees. In any form, you can remember Krishna. And then comes Atma Nivedanam, completely surrender. The best analogy of complete surrendering is Bali Maharaj. So Bali Maharaj, when Lord Vishnu came into the form of Vaman Dev to Bali Maharaj, so he took the entire universe. He took the entire universe, and after that he asked Bali Maharaj, where should I put my next leg? Then Bali Maharaj came under Vaman Dev and surrendered himself and asked him, you can put your leg on my head. So as soon as Lord Vaman Dev put his leg on Bali Maharaj's head, he was gone to the Patal Lok. And still Bali Maharaj is ruling Patal Lok. And at the door of Patal Lok, Vaman Dev, Lord Vishnu himself is giving the protection. So wherever devotee is there, Lord is there to protect him. So this is the top relation between devotee and Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna. So Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the Supreme Proprietor. Then we have different examples. Atma, Amanitvam, humility, Adhambitvam, pridelessness, Ahimsa. So these are all 20 characteristics. These are the only 20 characteristics of acquiring the knowledge. Comes under the process of acquiring knowledge. Saucham, Stharyam, Atma Vinigraha, Indriyartheshu Vairagyam, all these are in all 20 characteristics. Then comes verse number 13 to 19. We are going to see Krishna answered 6th question of Arjuna, the object of knowledge. Who is the object of knowledge? the soul can know the super soul, who is the object of knowledge. So super soul is the object of knowledge. So super soul is Gayam, and who exists everywhere and pervades everything. Super soul pervades everywhere. In all living entities, heart, super soul exists. The super soul has transcendental senses, and he is the source of all our senses. He is unattached and he maintains all living entities. So it is the responsibility of super soul maintains all living entities. So whenever you are going to do good thing, super soul inspires you. And when you are going to do some bad thing, always super soul rejects it. But soul, conditioned soul, always performs all these material things by ignoring the super soul's instruction. Then whatever fruitive actions comes, living entity has to suffer from various sufferings. He is unattached and he maintains all living entities. Although super soul exists in our heart, but he is unattached. So Krishna pervades everywhere. Super soul pervades everywhere. In our heart, Krishna lives as super soul. And super soul is giving instruction to soul what to do and what not to do. He is inside and outside, far and near, and beyond our material power to see and know. He is the master of the modes of nature and appears divided, although he is one. He is the source of light in the luminous. He is knowledge and he is the object of knowledge. He is in everyone's heart. Only the devotee, then verse number 19, only the devotee can understand the field of activities, the body. The field of activity is the body, the process of knowledge, and both the soul and the super soul. That is told in verse number 19. So verse number 13 to 19 talks about object of knowledge, Gayam. Object of knowledge is super soul and soul. So 13 to 19, Krishna is telling Arjuna. Verse number 13. Gayam yat tat pravakshami yajagyatva amritam asnute anadimat param brahma na sattan na sad uchyate. I shall now explain the knowable, knowing which you will taste the eternal. Brahman, the spirit, beginningless and subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world. So, Gaya, knowable. Who is the Gaya? Soul and super soul are the real objects to be known. Gayam, objects of knowledge. Who are the Gaya, knowable? What are the benefits of knowing the knowable? Anand Brahma, super soul as the knowledge and knower. Vijnana Brahma, living entity as the knowable. So, soul is Vijnana Brahma and super soul is Ananda Brahma. Super soul is always in Ananda. Okay. So, what are the benefits of knowing the knowable? Benefits of knowing the knowable is one can relish the nectar of life. So, if you know about Krishna, that is the best knowledge. If you know about the super soul, that is Gayam. So super soul is Gayam. Benefit of knowing the knowable is one can relish the nectar of life. Then comes Ananda Brahma, super soul as the knowable and knower. Srila Prabhupada gives reference for the presence of super soul as the supreme knower, and thus reference given in Svetasvatar Upanishad. Super soul is the chief knower of body and master of three modes. The super soul knows about the body. Super soul knows about the soul. And super is soul, the supreme object to be known. So we all should know Ask about what is super soul. Acquire knowledge about super soul. Ask your guru, sadhu, sangha, shastra, what is super soul. Try to understand super soul. So super soul, why? Because super soul is pervaded everywhere. In everyone's heart, non-living, living, super soul exists. Without super soul existence, there is nothing. Okay. So in reference, Smriti, living entities are eternally servant of the Lord. So we are all eternal servant of the Lord. But after taking birth in this material world, in Indriya Sukh, we have forgotten everything. So Indriya Sukh is such a great ignorance that you will forget everything. Even you can forget soul, you will forget super soul, you will forget about Krishna. That's why here in this sloka, Lord Krishna himself is saying that super soul is knowable. Gayam. Reference Lord Chaitanya, only Krishna is the Supreme Lord, all others are his servant. Okay, Lord Chaitanya says that only Supreme Lord Krishna is the God, Lord, others are his servant. Then what is Vijnana Brahma? Living entity as the knowable. So soul is known as Vijnana Brahma. Chapter 2 describes the living entity as eternal. So living entities are eternal. The relationship between soul and super soul is eternal. The relationship between living entities and God is eternal. And we have got this life, this human form of life, to understand this relationship. Because of some XYZ reason, because of so much involvement in this material world, in Indriya Sukh, we have forgotten our relationship with Supreme Lord Krishna, our relationship between soul and super soul. No history of death of Jiva's manifestation available, therefore called Anandi, Anadi. Anadi. Suffering, supporting reference Katha Upanishad. न जायते म्रियते वा kadachin. Knower of body has no birth and death, but is full of knowledge. The one who knows body, the one who knows super soul, the one who knows soul, the one who knows relationship between soul and super soul is the having knowledge. He is the intelligent. So who are Geya, knowable? Soul and super soul are Geya, knowable, are the real objects to be known. So you should know what is soul. You should know what is super soul. You should know what is the relationship between soul and super soul. You should know what is body, what is soul. You should know who are you. Am I body or soul? So in Bhagavad Gita 13.13 describes the first object of knowledge, that the soul, living entity. Understand what is living entity. Understand what is soul. Understand what is super soul. Understand why Krishna is supreme proprietor. Understand why Krishna is supreme controller. Wow. Understand why Krishna is supreme object to be known. Okay. So this is the answer of Arjuna's sixth question. Then comes text number 14, tells about super soul is all pervading. Why it is all pervading? Because super soul exists in everyone's heart. The soul and super soul are living together. So whether it is living entity or non-living entity, moving or non-moving, super soul is inside as well as outside. Verse number 14. Sarvata panipadam tat sarvato Shikshiro mukham sarvatah sruti maloke sarvam abritya tishtati. Everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes, heads, and faces, and he had ears everywhere. In this way, the Supersoul exists, pervading everything. So it is living outside as well as inside. Is it possible for a humankind so to live inside as well as outside? But Supersoul is all pervading. It is everywhere. Okay, so Supersoul is all pervading. Supersoul has hands, legs, eyes, ears, heads, and faces everywhere. Supersoul is all pervading. Analogy, sun is all pervading by diffusing unlimited rays. So sun never thinks that I should pervade here, here, and not here. No, it pervades everywhere. It distributes its rays everywhere without any partiality. So sun never does any partiality in spreading its sun rays to everywhere. So sun is all pervading by diffusing unlimited rays. In him exist all unlimited individual living entities, Brahma to small ant. So in him exist all unlimited individual living entities, Brahma to small ant. We can say Supersoul is everywhere. It is all pervading. And Supersoul is Krishna. Supersoul is Krishna only. Srila Prabhupada strongly confirms that this verse describes the Supersoul, not living entity. So this verse describes the Supersoul, not living entity. Individual soul cannot claim that he has legs, hands everywhere. We have our legs, hand, eyes here in our body only. We cannot show that my body is pervading everywhere, my legs are pervading everywhere, my eyes are pervading everywhere. No, it is individual. But Supersoul has legs, ears, faces, mouth, everything, and it is all pervading. So to think, this is the effect of ignorance. If one thinks that under ignorance, one is not conscious that his legs and hands are diffused everywhere. But when he attains to proper knowledge, he attains to that stage. He thinks, his thinking is contradictory. Refutation, if living entity has become conditioned by material nature, then how can he be supreme? If I am a living entity, and living entity has soul, and Supersoul is living with soul, and if there is no Supersoul, then this body becomes dead. The individual soul cannot extend his hands and legs, etc. everywhere. So we have got limitation. We have our own hands, own body, own mouth, own ear, nose, everything, legs, to use for own purpose. So we cannot say that my head, my body pervades everywhere. So it is impossible. Supreme Soul can extend without limit, as shown by reference Bhagavad Gita 9.26. Patram puspam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayakshati. So, Supreme Soul can extend without limit, as shown by reference Bhagavad Gita 9.6. Shown by Bhagavad Gita 5.37. Goloka eva. Then comes sloka number 15. Supersoul is transcendental. Supersoul is beyond our understanding. Sarvendriya gunabhasam, sarvendriya vivarjitam, asaktam sarvabhricheva, nirgunam gunabhoktricha. The Supersoul is the original source of all senses, yet he is without senses. He is unattached, although He is the maintainer of all living entities, living beings. He transcends the modes of nature, and at the same time, he is the master of all the modes of material nature. The super soul, he is the master of material modes of nature. He is the master of soul. He is the master of body. So he is supreme. So Supreme Lord is the source of all senses of living entities. Doesn't have material senses like ours. Super soul has doesn't any material senses like ours. Reference in Svetasvatara Upanishad 3.19. Distinction between super soul and conditioned soul. Supreme Lord has no hands which are materially contaminated, but has transcendental hands, accepts whatever sacrifice offered to him. So super soul is such a powerful person, he can accept all the offerings. All the offerings given by devotees, given by living entities, given by demigods, given by anyone. So he is all pervading and transcendental. Transcendental means beyond our understanding. We cannot understand. Not even yogi, great sages, sadhus are able to understand Krishna. So who are we? So Supreme Lord has no hands which are materially contaminated. He accepts whatever sacrifice offered to him. He can accept sacrifice by his leg. He can accept sacrifice by his ears. He can accept sacrifice by his nose. He can accept sacrifice by his mouth, by ear, through any part of the body. The Lord is known as omnipotent. He has no material eyes, but has spiritual eyes because he can see past, present, future. Example 7.26. He has no material legs, but has spiritual legs, can travel throughout the universe. He has spiritual legs, he can travel throughout the universe without in a second. So what is the conclusion? The Lord is not impersonal, but definitely has spiritual senses. Lord is not impersonal. Lord is personal. He is Supreme Lord Krishna. He is Supreme Proprietor. He is Supreme Controller. So how can we expect part and parcel to have something which the Lord, the original source, doesn't have? Okay, so whatever we have, Krishna also possesses the same things. But we have in minute quantity and Krishna has in vibhu quantity, great quantity. Lord appears by his internal potency and not contaminated by material energy, given in 4.6. Janma mrityu cha te divyam. Okay, so Lord Krishna's birth and death are eternal. We ordinary human beings, living entities, gets birth. Then we take birth, then grows, then byproducts, then disease, old age, and then death. So we are transforming in these all 6 changes. So we are bound to these 6 changes, but Lord is not bound. There is no foundation for Krishna. Full of opulences, proprietor of all wealth and all energies, most intelligent and full of knowledge, maintainer of all living entities, and witness of all activities. Let it be any thief and perform who is performing, he is stealing something. And he says that no one is watching. Lord Krishna is always watching everywhere. His eyes are everywhere. Whether you are doing good or bad, he is watching. We have seen the example of two birds sitting on a tree. These two birds are soul and super soul. Soul is enjoying and super soul is keeping a watch on soul. Okay, so most intelligent and full of knowledge. Why? We can't see him because he is transcendental. We are materially contaminated. Even the impersonalists are materially affected. But Krishna is not materially affected. He is not impersonal. He is personal. Only by transcendental elevation, one can see the Lord's form. When Arjuna wanted to see the Virat Roop of Krishna, Krishna gave him divine eyes. It was the mercy of Krishna on Arjuna. Krishna wanted that my devotees' desires should be fulfilled. Krishna is there always to fulfill desires of his devotees. And devotees are always eager to give service to Krishna. So they are made for each other. Devotees for Krishna, Krishna for devotees. Then comes text number 16. Super soul is all reconciling. Bahir antasya bhutanam acharam charam evacha Sukshmatvat tad vigyeyam durastham chantike chatat. The supreme truth exists outside and inside of all living beings. The moving and non-moving. Because he is subtle. He is beyond the power of material senses to see or to know. Although far, far away, he is also near to all. This is all imagination, we can say, but it is truth that Krishna pervades everywhere at the same time. So he is there, he is also not there. He is far, he is also near. He is moving, he is outside and inside, moving and non-moving. The supreme truth is outside and inside of all living beings. In Vedic literature explains that Narayana is residing both outside and inside of every living entity. Present in both the spiritual world and material world. And he is far, far away, but also near. So Krishna pervades everywhere. He is there in material world, but he is also there at the same time in spiritual world. Krishna resides in everyone's heart. Krishna resides in devotee's heart. Krishna also resides in non-devotee's heart. But they are in so ignorance, they cannot see Krishna. Although Krishna is there. Why? Because Krishna is subtle. He is beyond the power of the material senses to see or to know. So Krishna has subtle body. No one can see him by this material eye. Material mind and senses cannot understand him. Even sadhus, yogis, great those who are having great mystic power, they cannot understand Sri Krishna. They cannot see Krishna. Who are we? We are nothing in front of them. Only possible if senses are purified by Krishna consciousness. If you are chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra regularly, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Then slowly, by the mercy of Krishna, by the mercy of spiritual Guru, by the mercy of Guru, Sadhu, Sat, you will be able to understand and see Krishna. Only possible if senses are purified by Krishna consciousness. And Krishna consciousness will come only by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Reference Bhagavad Gita 11.54. Bhaktitva. And Brahma Samhita says Premanjana Chirita. Okay, so Krishna is Supreme God, Supreme Lord, Supreme Proprietor, Supreme Controller. 13.16 as avigyam, unknowable, indicates that the super soul cannot be understood by the material senses. Never, never. So Krishna cannot be understood by material senses, by material knowledge. Having material degrees, PhDs, MBBS, all these are insufficient to know Krishna. Okay? So only by hearing with devotion from transcendental sources can he be understood. But if you have got hearing power, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. Okay, by these all 9 processes, you can serve Krishna. May not be able to understand even after that, but you can serve Krishna. If you are serving Krishna, Krishna reciprocates. So Krishna reciprocates equally as you surrender. Okay. We'll stop over here. Next time we discuss. If you have any question, you can ask. श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। हरे कृष्ण।